Now I will talk about liberalism. Liberalism, is it pagan or Christian? There are many people who think liberalism is a Christian conception because Christianity is emphasis on universalism. I do not think so. No. In the 21st century, the age is of postmodern, not modern. So we are living in a post-structuralist, postmodern society. All are in a flux. The truth, the absolute, the God, the future, the humanity, whatever the conception of them, these specific categories, the history, the society, and the gods, all are in flux. They are not fixed, they are not the center. Nothing is sure, random is all, and everything. As it should be in alignment with nature and its essence, the chaos. If you know, the chaos is Greek mythological concept. It's before the creation or before the order, that is only chaos. Subduing the chaos, ancient invented the logos, language, myths, and stories. This is the manifestation of logos or manifestation of order. You can conceptualize this as a net by which you can capture the chaos and make a creation, ordered creation. And our stories of gods, Catholic gods, as it calls in Greek mythology, all of them present such that from chaos the gods put order upon the chaos, thus creating a whole world. Even in Bible, it is so. So from that we can, but nature's chaos produce more information, and it's because so these stories provide some certainty, some order to humanity. But nature's chaos produce more information by more self-categorizations and by increasing the human categorizing power. But chaos is chaos. You cannot categorize it. If you try to categorize it, it will create more chaos. More chaos means more information. And more information, you try again categorize it. So, by increasing categorization, you create more and more information. By not categorizing, chaos expands, thus also creating more information. Because you cannot understand chaos. Only way to understand the chaos is to filter it through your ordered categories, your logos, your logical structures. If you filter it through, then you will understand chaos, chaos through its small parts in your net of category. Okay. Thus, new net of order was thorough through industrial thought, the scientific thought, the empirical thought, the ideological worldview thought, the modern thought was born. So this is the genealogy. That the mythic thought, then came the logical thought, then came the modern industrial thought. From industrial thought we get the scientific thought, from scientific thought we get the empirical thought and the ideological thought and the worldview. Worldview is world conception thought and the modern thought was born, but all of them has a logical structure as a center. But at 1990s, on the doorstep of internet, late space race and collapse of the Soviet Union, the war of ideology is over. The modern age has exhausted itself. Postmodern age is born, or the modern broke into thousands, infinities of postmoderns. Okay, whatever that may be, is the task of future generation to determine. The dominant political order after the Renaissance, and with its dominance increasing in the Reformation, spreads to the whole world through parasitizing of colonialism and more self-asserting after the Enlightenment, scientific, and post-World War axis was and is the liberalism and democratic nationalism. Now, genealogical origin of liberalism is not determined. Is it a result of secularizing and theopolitical to political processing of Abrahamic seed of thought? Or is it pagan polytheistic origin? My thought and hypothesis is it is pagan through and through, with slight tinge of Abrahamic equality and universalism. The doctrine of tolerance cannot come from an absolute theology of Christianity. Okay. Christianity by definition is an absolute theology. Monotheism by definition is absolute theology. Okay. A Hellenic Roman imperial adaptation of Jewish theology or Abrahamic theology. Okay. These are all the same thing more or less, which considers only itself to be the truth. Okay, the god. Others are false gods. Okay, but Greco-Roman pagan thought is a seed sack of it. Okay, so it cannot come from the Abrahamic concept. So where does it come? It came from Greco-Roman thought. Greco-Roman thought is by definition is a pagan thought or polytheist thought. Okay, their philosophy is polytheist. It's like myth became the philosophy everywhere. If you see history of India, what does philosophy comes from? It comes from the mythic concepts. First there is mythic concepts, then there is philosophical logical concepts. In China, this is so. There are philosophy and religion is today itself fused. In India, religion and philosophy also fused. In Japan, religion and philosophy is fused. And in Europe, religion and philosophy is different because they are different because whatever they consider now religion is not the original religion of them. Okay, so original religion has lost, only they kept the philosophy, so they think that is different, the religion is different. But no, there is always connection between theology, and theology transforms itself into philosophy or mythic conceptions, or mythic conception of the world transforms itself into philosophy. So from Greco-Roman thought came the idea of tolerance, idea of uh, human rights, etc. How so? So I think it is through the Renaissance. If you think of the Renaissance, Renaissance is the first pagan revival in Europe. After 1,000 years of dark ages, Renaissance is the first time that pagan philosophies become center stage, decentering the gods. Okay? And by centering pagan thought, human centers itself. Because in pagan world, if you think about it, in pagan world, human is center. How so? Well, so when the Renaissance happened, it not only weakened the political power of Abrahamic monotheistic theology in the European psyche and society, that ancient paganism resurfaced. Its thought paradigm penetrated the social strata and established the re-hegemony. It brought force to the already existing folk Catholic pagan elements of Christianity. So, if you know, Catholicism doesn't completely eradicate the pagan elements in Europe. Okay, so there is some folk Catholic element still present that has the seed of paganism to revive it. And with Renaissance, that becomes the center stage and also contradicts the central principle of anti-paganism. This folk Catholic element becomes more pagan, and with the Renaissance paganism do synthesized and contradicted the Christian paradigm, and with this, after some time, create a reformation in Christian paradigm. That is the reformation of Martin Luther King. But pure classical thought, aka pagan, rejuvenated and created its own ideological genealogy, constantly evolving, creating, and secularized to create more and more ideological strands. These strands of ideologies contains one of the modern ideology, namely liberalism. Liberalism is genealogically and ideologically a pagan thought, non-Abrahamic, specifically not Christian. One may ask, how so? So I created a schema. See, 14th to 17th century, the Renaissance happens. This is the first pagan polytheist reversal. This revival creates the poly plus demos paradigm. Poly plus demos paradigm means there is many and there is peoples, many peoples, and so there is many peoples and there is many conception of God. So polytheism and democracy is intertwined. Then came the humanism. Because of the pagan thought, pagan always centers human. Even though there are various gods, gods were never centered, nor are the devils, nor are the demons. See, if you take the example of bodies, okay, take the example of bodies. There are various demons, there are various gods, but who is center? It is Odysseus. In Iliad, who is center? It is Achilles, it is Hector, it is all the human. Human is always in ancient myths. Humans are the center, not in Abrahamic thought. God is the center, human is the periphery. Okay? So, why after Renaissance the center stage of God is replaced by humanism? Because pagan thought itself is centering always human. Human can negotiate with gods, he can negotiate with demons, and get the benefits. So he is the center stage in pagan thought already. in any pagan thought, gods are, if you highly think about it, gods are tools to be used by the humans through negotiations. And human negotiates with gods, and God compromises with humans. But Abrahamic God don't. This pagan poly and demos conception and humanism came into came through going through, and humanism came through, and that renaissance has gone through the enlightenment. Through enlightenment we get the scientific revolution. Scientific revolution also culminated in the Scottish enlightenment, and scientific revolution, Scottish enlightenment, all three of the things culminated in the industrial revolution. This industrial revolution along with humanism and the pagan polytheist renaissance humanism, and they created the modern liberalism. They created three things: liberalism, democracy, and nationalism. So there are some contrast in pagan Greco-Roman worldview and the Abrahamic worldview. Some contrast and some similarities. What is the similarities? Both pagan and Christian worldview views the earth as the center of the universe, aka the Ptolemaic worldview, endorsed by also the Catholic Church. This is only one similarity between this. And difference is pagan worldview, human is the center of the world, of that universe, or earth. Christian worldview, God is the center of the world, or the universe. The Christian worldview, God is absolute. Human have no choice but to follow him. He cannot negotiate his place. But in pagan worldview, human can negotiate, even manipulate gods. They can trick gods, but not only gods, but all other extraordinary beings. That is demons, nymphs, sirens, fairies, etc. Also, as a member of human species, okay, they can manipulate everyone. Thus, while human have negotiating power, he has also the centrality. Thus, humanism or anthropocentrism, liberalism of democracy, of human rights is genealogically and ideologically pagan polytheist. Now from above pagan polytheist view, you can derive modern so-called West or Brito-American world order. The founding of America is pagan through and through. Let's take for the example of Statue of Liberty. Its imagery and likeness is the same as the pagan Roman solar god Sol Invictus. General George Washington has a painting depicting him to be heavenly or becoming God, becoming God, or apotheosis, a process by which Roman emperors, dead or alive, become avatar or living embodiment of the Sol Invictus of solar imperial cult, state religion of the Roman Empire, late Roman Empire. From Supreme Court of USA to its Constitution to the White House, all are deliberate imitation of Greco-Roman art and architecture, through which paganism sublimed into the American consciousness and only nominally adhering to a Christian identity. Simultaneously, the French become restless. Lo, behold, the fall of Berlin. Look, guillotine. See the beheading of king and the queen. Thus, the French had the revolution, and from the revolution came three things: liberty, equality, and fraternity, and vehement anti-Catholic atheism. Okay. Modern liberal world order is a Franco-American synthesis of ideas, with Napoleonic mutation of romanticism of pagan past into the nationalism, further mutated by Bismarck, Garibaldi, Marx, and Camus. Now enters Charles Darwin, Karl Marx, and Sigmund Freud, three prophets of modernity. We should call it high modernity. The long 19th century saw the dance of descendants of radical wing of French revolutionary thought. That means the radical wings means the equality and the fraternity match. Liberty became the liberal hegemony as we know today. Three of them shifted the paradigm, radically changed, and this radical revolutionary thought also changed by the three of the prophets of modernism, that is Charles Darwin, Karl Marx, or Sigmund Freud. They radically changed the thought of conception of humans. Radicalization itself, a counter radicals, produces multitude of radicalisms, mixing and matching and marching towards progress, towards utopia, communist, socialist, national socialist, fascist, and anarchist. All of them are social, collective, and about struggle, about making Mensch into Übermensch by political, sociological, or biological means. From these three, Charles Darwin is the most influential and thought-provoking in the 20th century. The implication of Darwin's thought becomes so extreme that it ended up with the Holocaust. Darwin's thought conception is nothing new, but had been thought of in ancient Greece by philosophers. But Darwin, along with Alfred Russell, was killed the god, the creator of the whole universe by his evolutionary theory. There is also the tinge of Descartes in it. Their basic thought is evolution as natural process creates biological diversity. The reason for it is differently theorized by them. Okay, Alfred Russell thought differently, Darwin thought differently, and Lamarck thought differently why this evolution happens. Lamarck thought the traits acquired in one generation could be passed to the next offspring. Darwin always differs in the sense that it is not certain traits are useful, thus shall be coded into. It is not the certain trait is useful. Okay? The cell be coded into genetics, but genetics mutated randomly or changes. If the change is helpful, then it stays in the gene pool and inherited to the next generation. Science as a methodology replaced the methodological hegemony of philosophy of logic and rationality. As the hegemon of the thought, it came into being applied to the other fields. Such fields were in their early development, among them anthropology, sociology, politics comes as foremost to apply the Darwinistic atheistic vision or theory to their own field. Thus, anthropology gave birth to scientific racism, sociology and politics gave birth to social Darwinism, propounded by Herbert Spencer and others. And from this lot, Nazism took its major racist and racialist worldview to Western style. This Darwinistic Spencerian thought sidelined liberalism, so-called freedom and equality. For this new ideology's world is a dog eats dog place. Only the fit, powerful, will survive. The social Darwinist Herbert Spencer coined the term survival of the fittest. But how to achieve it? A master race, a race so fit it must dominate. The process developed with the theories of Hitler into the theories of Herbert Spencer and Francis, what's his name? Dalton. Okay, I'm forgetting into science called eugenics. God the creator is dethroned with Darwinistic conception, but human soul still lingers. Okay, if you think God is a part and human soul is a part of uh, two pole of the theological mythological world conception, God is dethroned as a creator, so he has no value. As a creator, has no value. Now it comes from soul. Now soul as a conception is very ancient. The Sigmund Freud with his psychology killed that conception also. God the creator is this, but human soul still lingers. Sigmund Freud is the man who replaced the superstition, who replaced this superstition of soul with semi-scientific theories of psyche. The word psyche is also Greek for soul. The word is used for scientific terminology. Thus, birth of psychology destroyed our eternal conception of soul. Ideas of ego, superego, and id replaced our understanding of ourselves. But of all three, Karl Marx is the most political, economical, and sociological, social, and collective. His ideas came into fruition not in the intellectual sphere, but in actual political sphere. Okay, so Darwin killed God, Freud killed soul, and whatever remains of theology is killed by Karl Marx. Okay. Uh, they become violent, active, revolutionary, novel, utopian. Ideas of dialectical materialism, historical materialism, class struggle, revolution, and scientific socialism engendered a vast number of political utopianists for the last 2 centuries. Freud's psyche sidelines liberalism, individualism by breaking its essence, the conception of soul, aka the Christian conception. Marx's idea replaced liberalism, freedom, and unbridled economy. Liberalism, the idealism is destroyed by other idealisms and materialism. Now, liberalism in its last place, if it wants to live, it must embrace its theological roots, that is, polytheism, must be violence towards divine fascism or monotheism, through logic, through debate.